And as everything is starting to come online, all my podcast stations starts to pop on right away. So welcome to Bridges Lives Present. Dr. Paul talking with Miss Meechie Jefferis. And as everything is starting to come online, we'll talk with Miss Meechie Jefferis. We're going to have a conversation about money. And don't be afraid. Stop being afraid. Every time we talk about money, people start to shudder and shiver. Why is that, Meechie? Why is that?
Well, first of all, thank you, Brother Dyer, for having me on this show. I appreciate that. And the reason why people start to shudder and shiver is because money is very foreign to them because we don't know money. We know that
we've been using money since the dawn of the corn trade. So what do you mean we don't know money?
We don't know money at all. You know, when we were emancipated.
Oh,
and
you're talking about black folk.
I'm talking about black folk.
There you go. Yeah, black folk don't know money. You're right about that.
No. But you know what? I'm finding that a lot of people, I don't care what color they are, where they come from, a lot of people don't know money. But one thing that I will say in relation to our people, to the African Americans here, that when we were emancipated and our former owners gave us money, they gave us the money, but they didn't give us the tools. They didn't give us the knowledge. They didn't prepare us to be able to know what exactly to do with the money.
So it's not it's not really money black folk don't know. It's black folk which is never taught.
Correct. And there is actually a system to how money should work, but we have never been taught that system. Now, I will also say that, okay, if we know we haven't been taught, how can we actually go about seeking out the knowledge to get that so that we can now be in a better position to learn and to actually teach? Yes.
So most of you people, if you're going to listen to this on the podcast, I did something. I know it's kind of scary, but I raised my damn hand. And so I can ask the question. Maybe some of you, just some of you black folk, were never taught that raising your hand was a benefit. Just maybe someone just thought, or you got ridiculed for whatever reason, and it traumatized you forever asking the question. No matter how many times now, Meechie's going to get into her life, but Meechie was also in the military. And we also have said that in the military, there is no bad question. I think they beat that into our heads because they wanted you to do something right. So don't go about doing something if you can't do it right. So those of you watching me video-wise, you saw me raise my hand. And the issue is we don't get enough hand raising. So how are you going to teach them when you don't even know who they are?
So you know what? Very good question. And, you know, because as we already said before, you know, when you said money, and yeah, a lot of people are like, oh my goodness, we're going to talk about money. I don't have a lot of money. Well, guess what? It doesn't take a lot of money to make money. It takes some money to make money. And on top of that, once you realize that and once you're educated on how you can take whatever little bit of money you have, if it's just $10, okay, what can we do with that $10? You know, it's $10 a day that we waste easily in our sleep. We waste that going to Starbucks.
And you shouldn't be going to Starbucks giving the money. If you're a black folk, time out. So first of all, if you're a black folk and you're going to Starbucks, afterwards Starbucks first use prison labor. Even if you don't even know about what they did about the lawsuit and having those brothers arrested in Philly. Even if you didn't know that and you were living under a rock and you don't get some of the news. And that's fine. But they use prison labor. That's something you should just stay away anyway. Stop using prison labor. So, I had to throw that in there.
No problem. So, one of the ways that I'm not going to know who is in search of help or who needs my help unless I open my mouth. Unless I put myself out there and say, hey, you know what? Now that I've been given this precious fruit of knowledge that was denied to my parents' parents, my parents, And now I'm figuring out, okay, even though at 47 years young at the time, almost 4 years ago, I decided to have an open mind. Somebody said, hey, Meechie, they're teaching people about how money works. They're teaching people some very basic, simple knowledge for free. Why don't you go to this particular office and check it out? I thought, okay, this is now my time. I can do that. I'm sure that there's something that I can learn. And I realized, wow, there's a lot that I learned. But I didn't want to just harbor it. I didn't want to just hoard it for myself, because I knew that at that age, I'm just learning and hearing this for the first time. How many people out there don't know this? How many people out there that probably come from the same era that I grew up in, maybe older than me, maybe younger than me, and they need this information as well. Okay, I don't know exactly what these people do in here, but I know that what they're doing right now is giving me life. They're giving me something that I've never heard of before. So you know what? I want to join. I want to do what they do. If anything, I can at least get the knowledge, get the education, and then give that knowledge and information to the masses, to the people out there in the communities, whether they look like me or not. But for sure, those who do look like me, because I know that we need it the most.
Meechie, I want to ask you something, because this is very passionate for you to teach Black folk. I'm going to use that. I'm going to beat that word up, because it's a family term. Black folk is a family term. Most people think Black folk means it's a family term. So I'm going to ask you to speculate, because not everyone's the same. I get it. We know that we're not monolithic. We get it. You know, we are not all the damn same. But what's holding us back from moving the economic ladder vertically up? Because I talk to, visit with, hear, and listen to a lot of Black economics professors and people, and Blacks are still not getting it. They'll go buy shoes. They'll go buy clothes. They'll go look. I was going to use an old term called fly, but if you're older, if you're younger than 40, you probably don't know what fly is. But I think it's fire now, and dripping with ice is in diamonds. They'll do that, but they won't be economically moving the ladder. How can we get that across? I mean, why hasn't that moved?
There are so many things that come to mind. The one word that stands out, the one word that's really shining in my mind right now is mentality. We have developed a mentality through observation of what we've seen growing up.
Gotcha.
And because of that, for example, working. Nothing wrong with that. Everybody got to make money some kind of way. Everybody needs something that's going to give them their source of bread and butter, that's going to keep the roof over their head, that's going to keep the clothes on the back and food on the table, pay the bills, yada, yada, yada. But there is something to be said about people, because I was in this mentality, okay? So,
right.
You and I. Okay, so for 26 years, I was under Uncle Sam's thumb for 26 years. I don't regret a day of service to my country at all. But guess what? With that, there was a certain mentality. We see it, brother. People that have a retirement ceremony on Friday, and they show up in the same office or the same section on the same base in the same squadron on Monday morning.
Yeah.
It's a mentality, because they don't know anything else. They haven't been taught anything else. Let me say it this way. They haven't been critically, what's the word I'm looking for? They haven't been so critical or able to be a nonconformist to the fact that they want to say, okay, I've been in this world for so long, but what's out there? What's out there?
Isn't that what happened to the Blacks in sharecropping? They didn't know what else to do, so they went not to just get their own farm, but they'll sharecrop a farm. So we're using the same mentality after the Civil War, when Blacks were freed and emancipated, as you said. There's a lot of Blacks are still sharecropping. If you work for someone else, you're still sharecropping.
And all you know is what your employer tells you.
Right.
That's all you know. And then when somebody comes along and says, hey, they're doing something different over there, check it out.
Oh, I don't know, Master. That kind of scares me now. I don't know if I should leave because they treat me kind here.
But they're nickel and diming you here too.
But I at least get 3 meals, and I know where I stand. I don't know if I get to go over, and that's sad, but it's true. It's very true. We could turn this into a comedy skit, but really it is. It hurts my heart thinking that people are still so locked under the thumb mentally, because if they break free mentally, the other stuffs are ups and downs and bumps and bruises, and then we help you along, you help them along financially, equity, all that stuff, and they get through, but they're afraid.
Our beloved queen and soldier warrior Harriet Tubman said it best. When somebody asked her, how many slaves did you free? She said, I guess I freed about 1,000 of them, but I could have freed more if they only knew they were slaves. That's a mentality. That's a mentality. Once I figure out, hey, what I've been doing for all these years is not working. Hey, I got to do something else different. But I got to be willing to shake through and fight through that mentality that I've been taught, that's been ingrained in me for so long. And a lot of people are just not willing to break away from the mentality and think what? Okay, for example, yeah, you may have a good 6-figure salary or whatever, but you should also understand that just because I'm making good money doesn't mean that I'm good. Maybe I can do better. I'm sure that there's something better. I'm sure that there's something that I can be taught. So
now, during the pandemic, last Christmas, we've been going through this about 2 years. Black America spent $13 trillion. Now, people should start asking themselves one particular question. How do they know how much blacks spend? Why is that so important? How much to define how much African Americans spend, Black America spends daily, often, and through the holidays? Does anyone else get tracked? Not as diligently as Black America. You want to tell people why?
We are the largest or some of the largest consumers in this country. So you know what? We have mastered the art. Again, it goes back to mentality. We have mastered the art of spending. But we don't want to learn how to save. We don't want to learn how to keep that for ourselves. We don't want to learn how to turn that money that I'm spending into a legacy of wealth. We don't want to learn how to turn that into, getting me free from debt. We're comfortable with spending.
So that means they're comfortable being in debt and being a slave.
And debt becomes a way of life. It just becomes a way of life, and it's something that we just become used to. We're used to that, and we're okay with that. We'd rather be in debt. We'd rather be indebted to someone that's controlling our mindset of constantly being a consumer than to be free.
You started a business, and you mentioned that teaching people how to learn how to gain that wealth. What is the business? How can people get a hold of you? And then tell us what you're doing.
Absolutely. So my business is at the core teaching people how money works and how they can make their money work better for them, how they can figure out how it is that they can get out of debt, and how they can learn basic principles that's going to teach them how they can double and triple their savings and actually build their own wealth. At the core, that's what I do. So people can get in touch with me. Am I allowed to share my number?
Absolutely, please.
Okay.
Please.
So my number is 240-210-4489. 4489. 240-210-4489. 4489. That is the best and quickest way to get in touch with me. If you prefer, you can also email me at Meechie Jefferis at gmail.com. That's M as in Michael, EECHIEJE, F as in Frank, F as in Frank, ERIS as in Sam at gmail.com. I can also be found on Facebook. My Facebook handle is Meechie Jefferis.
Now, people have gone to a class, they've gone to a community center, they've heard how to save money, and yet they're still not doing it. What is then some of the pieces they're missing? Are they missing pieces, or are they just missing the emotion to detach from what they already know? Because you can give them something, and they're going to spend it right now. So they're still struggling with that mouse wheel over and over. They hear, they read, and there's a lot of good people, brothers and sisters out there saying, hey, do this, do that, black businesses, networks, and all that stuff, and they're still not getting it. Then that means there's a cog out of place.
Definitely. And I will tell you what that is. There are a lot of people that want to continue to read. They want to continue to learn. And people say that knowledge is power, but I'm going to take it a step further and say applied knowledge is power. There are people, doctor, brother, you can read all day long, but if you don't apply it, it doesn't mean anything. Mm-hmm. That's when you're putting your knowledge into action. So what's missing is that we continue to keep reading, but we're not activating what it is that we're reading. That's the part that matters. You can read all day long, but you need to put it in action.
And that action, how do you hold someone but bringing them to the action? How, when they call you, how do you carry them over to the action?
Good question. I carry them over into the action when I first start to give them some basic information. There's a presentation that I will start to share basic information that will cover things like the rule of 72, that will cover things like the Dyer method, that also hit on things that we're facing with, that the crises we have, retirement crises. A lot of people will work until they die. They will work themselves to death. Why? Because they never took the time to learn about how they can build up wealth, how they can start to actually build up a retirement plan so they don't have to work the rest of their lives. Then I also give people a free financial review. Because for me personally, when I got a free financial review, I had to look at the numbers on paper. Right. Because all I know, okay, we good. We got money in our account. But you know what? How can I make that money grow? How can I double? How can I maximize my money so that I can continue to build and be in a more financially stable and secure place? So when COVID-23 happens, or when Omicron 22 happens, I have a financial foundation that's stabilized. I need to learn that, okay, it's not just about what's in my savings, because you and I already know that the bank ain't going to give you much for your money, okay? You lucky if you get something that's going to give you a rate of return of 0.25%. But what about the accounts out there that's going to give me a higher rate of return and that's going to allow me to put my money somewhere where it's going to grow safe from further taxation and inflation?
Now, we know people heard that they've made more money during the pandemic than in the last 40 years. People, that was very difficult for people to understand because they're the workers. But there was opportunities out there to grab up, inexpensive opportunities to grab up that was going to create great return. Is that part of that lesson that black folk never learned? Yes.
And yes. And yes. Yes. So when you see the numbers on paper, at least for me, I was like, okay, so let me really look at my money. Let me take a look at my balance statements. Let me see, okay, I know we got this much money coming in, but we have a lot of this money going out. Where is it going? It's going towards, now I'm retired, right? So it's going towards me having breakfast, lunch, and dinner with Bobby, Susie, and Jim and marry them. Okay, well, you know what? I need to cut back on that. When we dine out, that is a huge portion of where we are spending our money on dining out, entertainment, if you will. Apple iTunes, my husband, he's a techie guy. Nothing wrong with that. But you know what? You may need to pull back on the Apple iTunes. Oh, my goodness. Cable. when I really realized how much I was paying for cable, I said, stop the madness. We've got to cut this out. As soon as I started cutting, and that's just 3 things that I named.
Right.
3 things that I mentioned. Huge impact on the growth in our savings. So
before we take off, and we should be doing this a lot more often, especially economically, and we're going to do that here with me. What's Rule 72? I know I already got an inbox. What is Rule 72?
Oh my goodness. If people don't listen, if people just totally ignore everything else I said, they need to remember the Rule of 72.
But I do want you to hear that you were called a sharecropper, and I'm going to vouch for that because you're still sharecropping. So listen to that shit. So go ahead.
You are hilarious with a capital hilarious. So the Rule of 72. Albert Einstein had a lot to do with this. So this is already going back 7+ decades. Right. This is going way back. The Rule of 72 says this: you take 72 and you divide it by the rate of return. So whatever that number is, let's say, for example, that number is 1. So let's say you have $10,000 and you find a particular account that's going to give you a rate of return of 1%. So you divide 72 by 1. The number that you are left with is the number of years it's going to take for your money or your debt to double. So let's say in this case, you have $10,000, you put it into that particular account. That's going to give you a rate of return of 1%. You divide 72 by 1. That means that $10,000 will double every 72 years. Mm-hmm. I don't know about you, but I ain't got 72 years to waste.
No.
So when you understand that, now you can say, okay, well, I need to find an account that's going to give me a higher rate of return. When people learn this, they will actually say, okay, well, is there such a thing? Are there accounts out there that do give me a higher rate of return?
Absolutely.
1%? Absolutely. Yes. So now you can start to look at those things and see what those accounts are. So that's the Rule of 72. And here's the other thing, the flip side of the Rule of 72. Certain types of mortgage companies, lender companies, the vehicle industry companies, you wonder why you have a high rate of return on your debts? Because they understand that your mentality tells you, I'm just going to make the minimum payment.
That's
you keep making the minimum payments if you want to, but you're going to be locked into debt for many, many years. You won't get out of debt.
Nope. And when you die, and we know how people are with what you call the next life financial planning, that house you've been paying on, they get to they buy at a low end and they sell at a higher return.
Yes. So debt becomes a way of life. Why should I be comfortable with a 30-year mortgage? Why should I be comfortable with a 6-year payment plan on my vehicle? Why should I be comfortable with that? But that's because that's what we've been taught. Mm-hmm. So we think it's okay. It's not okay. So
I was going to ask something. Where was it? It was about money, but it was... oh, shoot. If I have savings, I lost a lot of money, and I think a lot of black people spend their money on things to create a joy for them because they're living in sadness. And I know you can't help them with the sadness, but you can help them with how they spend their money. What's a way for them to check that spend if they're spending emotionally? Have you ever come across that? Like something, if you're feeling this when you spend, then maybe you shouldn't be spending it. Have you?
Yes.
What?
Yeah, so a cousin of mine, actually, she opened up to me when I started sharing with her about financial literacy. And she mentioned to me, she said, hey, you know what? Now both my mom and my dad are gone. And in those moments when I'm really depressed and down, I would literally just go shopping, find something to fill that void of sadness. And there's one thing that I want to actually discuss. There's something referred to as needs versus wants. Mm-hmm. So to help you really gain perspective of it, you have to ask yourself, okay, do I need that? Do I need those pair of Timberlands? I have like 10 of them already in my closet. Why am I feeling like I need to purchase this 10th pair or this 15th pair of Timberlands when I already have X number amount in my closet? Mm-hmm. What's wrong with the ones that I have now? Is it something from my past? Is it because when I grew up and we didn't have any money, and as soon as we got money, it went to bills, and then it went to some nice pair of clothing that, what is it that I'm trying to fill? So I need to understand, and I need to ask myself, am I buying out of need or want?
Right.
And when you can better distinguish and identify if it's a need or if it's a want, then you have to make that decision. You have to make that intelligible decision. Okay, if I'm buying this, is it going to appreciate or depreciate? What kind of value is it going to give me back in the long run?
So let's blow up your phone. Give your phone number again.
Sure. 240-210-4489.
There you go. We're going to have Miss Meechie Jefferis back again with financial literacy because we have to hear this over and over again. And I know people out there reading some economic books and seeing some nice black people show their wealth and how they got this car and that car. And it's great enthusiastic and great enthusiasm to see these things. But it doesn't take away from you. That doesn't give you the knowledge. They say, if you pay for this, or you pay for that, I will show you how you too can make $10,000 a day. Well, something's wrong with that.
Mm-hmm. And this is free, by the way.
Right. Thank you, Miss Meechie. I adore you. I love you. Thank you for your service, not in the military, but thank you for your service to our black folk. Because that's once we empower the other, we empower all. So Thank you so much.
Thank you, beloved. I thank you.
You're welcome. Everyone have a God and blessed, compassionate night. And tune in for the next time we visit with Ms. Meechie Jefferis on financial literacy. Thank you. Bye.